Good evening. The man accused of murdering Ranfurly Police Constable Peter Umbers appeared in the Dunedin District Court today. Richard Lakich entered no plea to the murder charge and was remanded in custody for a week. More on that story on One Network News. The cause of a plane crash in the Southern Alps last August remains a mystery at the end of an inquest into the deaths of the 10 people on board. The Invercargill Coroner's Court has heard evidence from the police, pathologists and representatives of Aspiring Air, which operated the plane. Mark Price reports.
Coroner Trevor Savage has left the Inspector of Air Accidents to come up with the cause of the crash, and that could take many months yet. In the meantime, he's found the pilot and his 9 overseas passengers on board the sightseeing flight died of multiple severe injuries. He heard evidence from Aspiring Air owner Alistair McMillan that his pilot, Paul Campbell, was one of those young, enthusiastic guys that put his whole heart and soul into it. Campbell had just over 1,000 hours flying experience, 40 to 50% of that in mountainous terrain. Mr McMillan speculated that when the Briton Norman Islander crashed into a mountainside at 5,500 feet, Campbell may have been looking for Park Pass through the Humboldt Range. Also giving evidence was pilot Ronald Cooper, who followed the ill-fated flight. He decided not to fly through the passes because of the cloud. He flew over the top at about 9,000 feet. In the last radio conversation between the two planes, Campbell had said he too would be flying over the top.
New Zealand pistol shooters are aiming high with the help of the Department of Physical Education at Otago University. Olympic and Commonwealth Games medalist Greg Yelovich led a posse of 5 national shooters to Dunedin for testing at the weekend. Ken Nicholson reports.
Those of you who watched the movie RoboCop on telly last night might think this is a scene from that movie. Well, it's not. It's actually Greg Yelovich, New Zealand's leading pistol shooter, undergoing tests at the phys ed school. He was one of 5 shooters who underwent studies on technique, which hopefully will lift their international standing. The shooters were taking advantage of the several $1 million worth of equipment at the university for this type of human study. Heart counts, muscle activity readings, reflector bugs which can show up through the high-speed video cameras to read out on monitors to show the most meagre movement in the hand. Mirrors were used to reflect a laser beam which indicated what effect the slightest movement has over the length of the range. Everything and anything that will help the shooters in the future.
Well, we're not really looking at these guys in terms of fitness, it's more in terms of really looking at them for technique analysis and correction, so it's another side of our service that we can offer.
How do you go about that sort of thing then?
A variety of different ways. It can both be biomechanical in terms of technique, really looking closely at what they're doing, or physiological in terms of their fitness, heart rates and monitoring breathing and all those kind of variables.
The shooters obviously came from all around the country. I mean, how did this come about?
Well, there was an interest from Greg Yelovich and some of the other New Zealand shooters who decided that some of the work that had been done in the past in Australia had really improved the results of the Australian shooters, and that was shown at the Commonwealth Games.
It's a sign of the times these days. If you want to get to the top in any sport, practice isn't the only answer.
If shooting's not your sport, maybe skiing is. And with the smattering of snow on the hills around the region, it's probably time to start thinking about the coming season. David Jameson's been thinking about it, and here is his report on the state of southern ski fields.
Many of the South Island's 18 ski fields are expecting a busy season this year. The big 3, Mount Hutt, the Remarkables and Coronet Peak, have all had large increases in the numbers of foreign skiers over the last few seasons. New markets are opening up. Many Japanese skiers are already booked in Canterbury for this season. And in spite of a lack of snow last year, Coronet Peak noted a big increase in the number of Australian skiers visiting. Although the toes aren't moving just yet, major preparations are underway. Several fields have invested in snowmaking equipment, allowing them to extend their seasons and patch up slopes. But by far the biggest happening for Kiwi skiing this year, the World Cup at the end of July. Those in the skiing industry say hosting it is a sign that our skiing industry has finally come of age.
And before we go, we'd like to really whet your appetite for the coming winter. Take a look at some of these antics recorded around the region's ski fields over the past few seasons. Piece of cake. We'll be back tomorrow. Good night.